all want to stand and space yourselves out to have some freedom of arm movement. So I feel like we should just start with hands on the heart, feet shoulder width apart. And when you have your hands on your chest, your heart chakra, feel into your feet. And allow your hands to sort of be replicated in your feet consciousness. Your feet are close to your heart, absorbing the ether, morality and truth and freedom.
Might have to speak a little louder.
And just take a few breaths to deepen your heart down through your solar plexus, your hips and legs. You feel like a standing, upright, moral human being. Now, we're going to lift our hands off of our heart, and with it, take with us our heart ether. Slowly rise your hands from your chest. It's almost like you're pulling the heart ether with your hands off your chest, gradually down to your sides. This reverence, social. All the while maintaining that arc you've just created with your hands from your heart. Now you can deepen into your hands, relax your shoulders, and really start to feel the social etheric as this highest moral structure. And you as a body are kind of the periphery. Just resonate there. Thinking with your heart, not with your head. You can start to experience your heart emanating outward as you feel ever more weighted by this etheric reverence, almost falling onto you. Yeah. We can slowly move our hands to this book. Breathe into this book. And start to experience your own ether body sort of cycling through this circle. You're not only creating your own sanctuary, you're also experiencing your ethical periphery. We can lift our arms outward, cycle them outward to the puh. It's almost like an inverted buh, shining into the ether. And then an ooh, incarnating into an ah, down into a ooh, ooh. 2 more of these. Ooh. Ooh. I'll just stand in a relaxed position. Hopefully by now you'll feel your whole ether body more filling your whole being, more resonant, more shining, more glittering. Now let's put our hand on our forehead and our stomach. And just feel what awakens in you through this touch. If things light up, let them continue that light and not close. Now we're going to lift our hands off of both regions, spiral them around and flip them. We're sharing these 2 realms with each other so they can integrate. All the while streaming your heart ether out of your arms into your hands and back. It's a much different experience. Let that integrate. We're going to go back one more time. We're going to discover something fundamentally new. The heart ether spirals out through the arms, ready to rekindle this new relationship. Now for our last movements, put our hands on our shoulders and fling them out. Finding the ether, finding that social Christ impulse. Once again, finding that social Christ impulse. We'll do it one more time. A giving, seeking. Now we're going to dig downward and lift this social impulse up and bring it to our hearts. Feel that child of the social ether, that child of purity coming into us. Once again, we lift it, seek it, tenderly bring it into our hearts. One more time. Scooping reverence, holding. So let's, as we close, just close our eyes. Let our arms fall consciously. And live into this experience of the outer inner and the inner inner. How we partake and participate in both of these. We build this inner heart love out of our wisdom. And we then experience in that social etheric womb the moral image of our universal collaborative individuality. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. You really cleared the air and made this a safe space. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody out there who stuck with us. We are appreciating your energy. We need to concentrate and bring it into this world. So thank you. And I'd like to invite Jeana Lee, Reverend Jeana Lee, to come forth here and Her and some of her cohorts have been working very hard today to get the church ready for our Christmas celebration, which is a big deal. And of course, all of the Holy Nights will also be celebrated. So it's a beautiful thing to have the community come together and do this deed. And so we really appreciate that you're bringing that energy here to the branch and bringing this Christmas festival alive for us. So blessings. Welcome.
Yeah, well, that was a little bit of a rocky start we got, but Lucian, thank you so much. That really helped a lot. And thank you all for being here. It really helped a lot. And I'm looking over here because that's where I can see the names on the screen. And I recognize some of those names. Thank you for being here. I should look at you. Thank you for being here. So, right, this is a hybrid gathering, and yeah, for those here and for you afar, yeah, please just bear with me and us as we find our way in this medium, because it is new, but we're wanting to find ways to connect. We want to connect with each other. So this is one of the ways that we're trying to do that. So as Hazel said, my name is Jeana Lee. I'm a priest of the Christian community. Everyone who's sitting here. I don't know if I know everyone who's online. Yeah. So the title that I gave this talk is Divine Love and the Holy Child Within. And if we look out into the world right now, it can feel a little bit difficult to connect with the divine love. We just had an experience today that might bring that to our awareness. We can also look inside and sometimes find it difficult to feel love within ourselves. Sometimes we can really recognize our lovelessness. And both of these can be a painful experience, looking out and looking in, and a lack of love. And sometimes this idea of divine love can feel very distant and kind of theoretical even. And then sometimes maybe for moments we experience something of it. But mostly we might experience something that's sort of like the apocalypse, divine wrath in the world. And at the same time, we can, even if we do sort of recognize this love in the world, we can still find it difficult to connect with the divine. Divine within us, the divine in others, divine in the world. Maybe not. I hope for all of you that it's not difficult. I know people for whom it's not so difficult, but I think for some it can be. How do we connect? Right? We want to connect with each other. We also, I think, want to connect with the divine and with love. So at this time of year, this Christmas time, it's a moment when the divine comes into the earthly sphere with the birth of this baby. I don't know how it is for you, but there's like a soft spot in my heart for babies, especially infants, especially sleeping. You know, when they're crying, maybe not so much, but even then, right? There's something special about babies. And maybe if there's nothing else that can enkindle a feeling of love within us, maybe a baby can. There's something special about that new life in the world. It's come so recently from the spiritual world. And I think especially if we think of the Holy Child born in Bethlehem, that love can be even stronger. So we have a little window into how can I find some sense of love, some sense of the divine within me. And at the same time, we also have this child part of us too. It's not just the baby that I see outside of me, that cute little infant in its mother's arms, but there is also a child within me that's been there since I was that little infant. And I want to offer some passages from the Gospels that actually speak about this child within us and the child as the gateway that connects us to the divine. This is in Matthew. Actually appears in all three of the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a child, whom he put among them, and said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever becomes humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Maybe it's worth saying not childish, but childlike, right? Become like children. Luke puts it a little bit differently. People were bringing even infants to him that he might touch them. And when the disciples saw it, they sternly ordered them not to do it. But Jesus called to them and said, "Let the little children come to me and do not stop them, for it is to such as these that the kingdom of God belongs. Truly, I tell you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God as a little child will never enter it." So, to me, this is a pretty strong message to us to find that child within as a way to connect with the divine and to live in the kingdom of heaven. Through this inner child, there is a connection. And this child lives in the kingdom of heaven. I think that's part of what draws us to these young children, is we see and feel the heaven around them. It's just there. These little children are in heaven. We kind of want to be with them sometimes when they're not screaming and crying, especially when they're sleeping. But I think for a lot of us, this can be difficult, this connecting with the inner child. I think especially if we experienced trauma as children, and who didn't have something difficult happen in their childhood. Some people had very difficult things happen. But even just the experience of incarnating, even if you had the most perfect and beautiful childhood, this experience of coming into this world is somewhat traumatic. And we experience the separation from heaven, being here on the earth. But especially if we've had difficult experiences, we can protect ourselves by actually shutting off part of ourselves, by putting aside this child part, and it sort of goes underground. And I think then we can often really feel separated and really feel distant from the divine, and find it especially difficult to enter with that childlike quality into the kingdom of heaven. But even if we've had very difficult childhoods, there was still a time, maybe before the trauma, or even amongst those difficult experiences, that we were little children. And we did experience a childlike connection with God and the universe. And so what are these qualities? What are these childlike qualities? Wonder, openness, awe, joy, peace, delight, maybe you can think of others within yourselves. And in these moments, we are in the kingdom of heaven. In these experiences. So I had hoped that we would take a little bit of time and do an activity together. I'm a little wary, because we all got a little shock at the beginning here. So it can feel hard to open up and be vulnerable, because that is also a quality of the child, right? Is vulnerable. So that was particularly interesting, right? That was our topic today, and then we all got a little trauma moment. Maybe using that word is too strong, but a little shock, could say. And for some people, that might have been more shocking than others, right? And could really send us back into a more upset state. I know that my heart was really racing there for a while as we were trying to take care of some of that. So yeah, so see where you're at, if you want to participate in this activity or not. But I'll tell you about it, and you can each for yourself decide. So I invite you to go back in your experiences, to take yourself back into a time in childhood where you had an experience of one of these or multiple childlike qualities, this joy or delight, sense of peace, sense of openness or awe, of wonder. And picture that experience. Colors, shapes, were there sounds, smells, body sensations, facial expression, take a moment to sit in that experience. If you're at home, maybe jot a note down if you think you want to or need to. And then take a imaginary photo snapshot of this experience, something that sort of captures the moment. So we have a childhood experience where you felt one of these childlike qualities, and you've taken an imaginary photo. So now what I'd like to do is get into groups of 4 or 5. We can do that here in person. On the screen, maybe we'll just break into 2 groups. And so get in your groups, pick a timer just to have some boundary. It doesn't have to be a really harsh, just, someone to keep an eye on the clock. And take 3 minutes each to go around and describe your snapshot. Don't have to describe the whole experience, but describe the snapshot that you took. Welcome to the recording. Maybe I'll just repeat
that.
That in these experiences, in the qualities of these experiences, we are in a way living in the kingdom of heaven. We're living with the divine, with this inner child. So I don't know how it is for you. I don't spend a whole lot of my time in that place, in that childlike, open, wondering, peaceful, joyful place. Sometimes I do. I don't know. How would you like to? Like to live in that place more? I would. And we can. Even though we're adults, that part of us is living and we can access it. I think it actually has a lot to teach us because it is our connection, right? It is our connection with the divine, one of them. I don't want to say the only one, but it's a way to connect with the divine and to inform us. Maybe I'm trying to make a decision and I ask myself, well, which option brings some of that quality, that joy or peace or wonder? Maybe that's the one I should go for. Or a certain kind of experience brings that feeling. Maybe there's something there. Or if I'm in a situation where I'm feeling particularly disconnected and alienated from love or the divine, can I find that somehow within? Can I go back into that place, into those qualities? Matthew says we must change and become as children. Imagine walking around in the world, as I said, not childlike, but not childish, not childish, but childlike, right? How would it be to be in the world in that kind of open, receptive, joyful, peaceful place? So maybe we'll take just a moment, a few minutes here, and if anyone wants to share something about, you've had an opportunity to share the specific memory or experience, but maybe something about what it was like to go into that experience. If that's going to sort of take a step back from here was the experience, but what was it like to be in it? Just to see it. Maybe we don't want to share and I'll just close, but if there is something, yeah, Lucian, please.
So Lucian, why don't you stand up and then come and stand in front of the camera or go back.
Yeah, no pressure.
What's your name again?
Martin.
Yeah. When you were telling your story, she was talking about this Christmas craft, building something for Christmas. And I'm an artist, and so that's a very personal experience to me, building something with a sort of out of this higher activity. And I just got such this palpable sense of being like a noble devotee of this Christ quality that is just pure joy and wonder and cosmic youth. And I was trying to imagine how could that actually be an experience as an adult constantly in our deeds. And I was seeing how if we engage in the ether today in that way, by sort of like picking from the ether our activity and moving through our karma by building our deeds out of that etheric Christ impulse, then we kind of feel that craft element again in that really esoteric Christian spirit. And it does feel like this inner child of wonder sort of moving through that etheric initiative by crafting out of it.
I'm just reminded, not because of what you said specifically, but just to hold in confidence the stories that you heard today. Yeah. Anyone else want to say something about the experience of talking about your experience or hearing others?
I'll say something. No, I just wanted to say that what was interesting in our group was that everybody spoke about an experience that was in nature. So that really struck me, that we have this resource where these etheric beings are working with us. And, of course, the animal kingdom as well. We have these other creatures in the world, these elemental spirits, etc., that are wanting to have our human contact, and then they give us this refreshment and this wonder, and we can have reverence for that. And really, it helps us to really truly be human. So that really stuck out for me.
Well, I just have to give a nod to my understanding of Kama Loka, because that's going back from now, from when we pass, eventually to the state of the child. And when you read the passages today, for me, I was just experiencing this idea of how Kama Loka eventually transports us back to a childlike state. Another thing I want to say is that classical homeopathy, constitutional homeopathy, I just remembered today, it transports you back through your imbalance from the now back in time. And it gradually unfolds on its way back through time. So it must be another way to get to the child.
It was really interesting to me to be able to go back to a memory that I've never ever shared before and just feel the sensations that came as a result of that, which was really heartwarming. And I felt like the movement, my heart was like going everywhere in my body. But you also talked about being able to access heaven this way, which is really lovely. And not just my own memories, but I found myself really wanting to participate in the other members of a group, participate in their memories. The joy that was felt, or I know we're not supposed to tell anybody's story, but yeah, just be in that, and how wonderful it would be if we could just all be childlike together. How much, like all this stuff, the concepts and walls and whatnot could just come down and all play together. It'd be lovely. That would be heavenly.
Yeah, and how could it be possible to do that while also being adults? Right, to bring something of that in. I experienced some of the, sorry, I'm just answering back, but some of the deeply wise teachers that I've experienced are so childlike. They have such a sense of humor and don't, they're just not caught up in all the sort of adult things that we often get caught up in. They really do seem to be living in that childlike place.
Well, they should just grow up, right?
And I think we can enter in through the qualities, right? I don't have to have that experience of being in the place where you were, the place where you were, but that joy, enthusiasm, wonder. Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone of our online participants. I would love for you to feel included. I don't know if that's possible. If you want to say something, unmute, and we will turn our faces to you.
You can raise your hand too.
Or you can raise your hand. I think it's in the reactions button at the bottom. But unmuting is also a way to go about it.
Perhaps.
Or not, that's also fine, yeah. Well, could type up later if you'd like. Oh, I see maybe Leon is unmuted. We don't hear you, oh, but do we have sound?
I'm trying to unmute the video.
There we go, yeah. Hi, Leon.
It's not enabled. It's disabled, the video.
We hear, oh,
That's okay, just go ahead and speak, we're listening.
Okay, my experience was the abruptness, the shock of when it was missing. In other words, when I started school and experienced things like the kind of discipline and the unfairness of some of it, and then the taunting and bullying, which I'd never experienced before. Until then, everything was a unity and it was fine. My parents were just amazing, and looking back on what they provided is just extraordinary. And my siblings feel the same way. One of the thoughts that came out of the previous talks here was the unity of feeling that all those things are not separated from, quote, the environment. We have labeled nature. I mean, you look up nature in the Oxford Dictionary, and it's everything apart from human beings. So we separated ourselves from all this a long time ago, and a lot of us are in conflict with it. We're still fighting wars against not necessarily people anymore, but viruses for sure, and other diseases, instead of in a cooperative, holistic relationship with living things, about making decisions. One of the basic things we're asked to choose in the Bible, you have before you life and death, choose life. We choose death very frequently, or decide on death, because that's the option provided to us. We haven't really thought through what we're missing. We're not fully alive, most of us. So anyway, that's what came up for me. I was paired off with this lady in Tennessee who came from Miami, which was the reverse of where I immigrated to, from England. So we had things to share.
Wonderful, Leon, thank you so much for being here and sharing. Is there anyone else who wants to say something about the experience? Yeah. Well, thank you again for all participating and sharing your experiences with each other. I think it does nourish all of us, right? I've got two more childhood moments to kind of feed my store of joy and wonder, peace. So as we go into this Christmas time, it is a time that can be a delight for children. It can be a little bit hard for adults sometimes. It can be delightful for children. Just the wonder and the simplicity in some ways of the season. So as we head out into this time of year, this darkness, the light is coming. It's an opportunity to begin to feel that divine love that is coming into the world, that has come into the world, and that is living in each one of us, and to access that within us, so that it resonates as we encounter it in the world. It's also in us, and there can be this connection. Because as I said, the divine love is coming into the sphere of the earth here at Christmas time. This child that is really the embodiment of love in the world. That we meet again at Christmas time. With that, send us all out into the Christmas world. It's nice and gray here in Chicago. Right, well, let's
Stand up, come
just
over.
close there, and thank you all. And,
After you.
Clap for my announcement.
I'm gonna just step out of the limelight. All right,
Gee,
go
I
ahead.
hope I don't disappoint you. Okay, so, Sheila Donahue, some of you, many of you have been to her home that she recently left. And she donated, or at least gave us a long-term loan for chairs, or theater chairs out of the field. You know the chairs. Her velvet curtains, deep red, and some stage lights. You know the whole arrangement there, I'm sure. And then besides having the paraphernalia for a stage now, we have a barn, a huge fabulous loft that's heated. But we also have performers who can populate the stage. And so we've set the 26th of February for our debut. And ultra purple.
Violet.
Ultraviolet and Lucian are going to perform, and they're going to perform a lot of music that they've written there. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been out there, it's less than a 2-hour drive. And we're gonna, since it's the debut for the barn, for the loft, Angelic Organics Farm out by Beloit, and it's a debut for the space, for the stage that we're going to be building now next month, and then for the performers. And so we're, how do I say, singling out our anthroposophical friends, because it's really imbued with an anthroposophical spirit, and it's not an amphitheater. It can only seat about 30 or 40 people. So I just want you to put that on your calendars. We'll be sending out announcements. We're probably going to have a dinner before the performance. Yeah, it's a Saturday, and maybe there'll even be a matinee performance that Heidi and I will offer. We haven't figured that out because a lot of work to get this ready. But I really want you to get this in your calendar, because I think it's going to be a very, very special, how would I say, transformation for the space, coming together for our fabulous artists who are making the most amazing music out there. Wow. And then to bring all of us together, okay?
You said the date, just one more time.
26, so it's one of Steiner's birthdays, right?
Of February,
Between
between his
26th
two,
of February.
it's between his two birthdays.
Maybe it's just
He was
middle
born
one.
twice,
Yeah,
just like the baby Jesus.
We'll also probably be talking about, intermixed with the music, speaking about the spiritual science of the lyrics in relationship to anthroposophy and Rosicrucianism.
Oh, it's magnificent music, and you can really feel the spiritual impulses that are coursing through it. It's really extraordinary. I felt myself almost lifting up in silo performance.
oh, boy, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Thank you. Yay, beautiful. Yeah, so I'll just close this out with this little piece. I brought this for you
Oh,
because
thank you.
you inspired, the title of your piece really inspired. And so Christmas 2021. The fire of love warms and delivers us from the cold of fear and hatred. The light of love frees us from the darkness of lies, deceit, and mendacity. The harmony of love brings peace to those of goodwill. The life of love leads us through the valley of the shadow of death to life, through all the cycles of time to come. May Christ, the God of love, be born in our hearts this Christmas. Thank you, Jeana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Think about Mary.